And a lot of times in these situations, the elk doesn't peg you till you go pull your bow back.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden it's like
Right.
peripheral vision,
Right.
you know, because ideally he's just gonna walk right through like this and this guy's gonna get a crack at him. So while he's in there thrashing brush, he's also bugling. And the thing that he likes to do is he likes to step on the bull, step on his bugle, right?
Oh, like not even let him like just
mimic it and step on it.
piss him off.
So you'll see, like when you're watching Phelps, like you'll see him, something will happen and he'll all of a sudden throw up. Not throw up like, blah,
yeah, right.
Like, throw out the bugle. Right? He's like cutting it off, mimicking it, stepping over it, if he's getting a super aggressive response.
Right. You can see how you become obsessed with that. Like
no.
this idea of just like,
He loves it, man. You know, I learned a ton, man.
Well, I mean, we could sit out here and annoy your neighbors for a little bit longer. How often do you bugle in the neighborhood?
I usually annoy my family.
Let's go inside and annoy your family.
And annoy the neighbor's dog,
Actually, we'll go cook for them. That'll be less annoying. So. Okay, so this dish, this is one that I like because, well, for a couple reasons. One, it's an alternative to just throwing something on the grill. Two, it's like kind of vaguely exotic. So I like sometimes when you consider doing something that, even though this is an American animal, something that's not an American dish. The third, and really probably the reason I like it the most, is that you can make this year round, but I mean, in the dead of winter, when you're like over the stews and the braises and all that kind of stuff, like having something like this is a big change of pace. The traditional dish is called shaking beef, or bu lok lak is what it's called, or bo lak lak. So it means, shaking is kind of a weird term. Like it's the name, the Vietnamese name, lok lak, is the sound of the stuff bouncing around in the wok.
Oh, is that
like
right?
It's an onomatopoeia. Yeah,
I was wondering where that, okay.
Lok, 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 like that's the sound of the stuff bouncing around in your like carbon steel wok. Theoretically, that's the sound.
Okay, I've wondered about that many times.
I love this dish. It's fast, which is another thing that's a big appeal for people, is that not all wild game dishes have to be all day affairs. Like this is we're gonna cook this in the time that it takes to cook some rice in a rice cooker. So it's pretty fast. The key with really anything you're stir frying, any kind of, you know, something that's gonna get cooked in a wok, is that it cooks super, super fast. The rule of thumb traditionally with this is that you, at least in like the classic Vietnamese approach to this, is that you want the pieces the size of, they always say the size of a die. Like if you were playing dice, like that's the size of a cube that you want. The other thing that you be mindful of with this too is that cutting it small to begin with means that it's gonna kind of marinate a lot faster. Chuck that out of the way, and then I like to go for, so I'll just pull this off to start with.
You're gonna make throwing dice out of this thing.
Yeah, you know, we're not gonna square them off. Like if we were playing dice, like we're gonna go for pieces that are a little bit, you know, I'd rather have them be slightly big because you want them, when you pick it up with chopsticks, it's easier than if it's a little teeny tiny piece. But something to the effect of that.
You know what's funny? I was in Vietnam working on a magazine store years ago, and it was before like pho sort of like took over America. I remember eating that a lot, being like, man, that's a weird ass but good ass soup, you know? It seemed like a few years later, I was like, I remember that shit, man.
Well, what's interesting is that like this dish and pho and stuff like that, they all kind of come from the same general time frame in the history of Vietnamese cuisine, because they weren't eating a lot of beef prior to like the French colonization of Indochina, you know, French Indochina as it were. So this was something that was reserved for, like, you would have this at like a wedding, maybe.
Got it.
Now it's something you'd have it on a Wednesday, you know? And honestly, in some respects,
like a very extravagant.
Totally, like it would have been a ultra, and like from what I was told, it would be an appetizer, like at a wedding. So you get 2 bites, you know, they had to spread it out because they weren't slaughtering cattle for that. They were using them to work the fields, as you can imagine.
Yep.
You know, I said marinade. In reality, what we're doing is something called dry brining, which a dry brine is more effective for this version right here for a couple reasons. But the main reason is that we really don't want to introduce any additional moisture.
Yeah, but that's gonna make a little, if you left it in there, just that amount of salt.
And it's gonna pull some out, which is the amount we want, because we want to actually cause it to flare up when we chuck it into the wok. We want that ignition. But if we had a full-blown like liquid marinade on it, we wouldn't be able to combat that temperature shift. We just kind of steam everything. I will add just a tiny bit of oil to it right now. This is some safflower oil, but not much, like just a little bit. Let me tell you what's going on here. So this is our sauce, I guess you would call it that, for lack of a better term. though it's not a saucy dish by any means. Soy sauce, that's what's in here right now. This is fish sauce, so it's the same amount of those two ingredients. Rice wine vinegar, so this is our acid that's gonna kind of cut through the richness of this dish. And then rice wine itself, like mirin, like actual sweet rice wine. So that adds a little bit of sugar to it. And then sugar, actual sugar itself. So this is a pretty sweet dish. This is something that, you know, does have a pretty substantial amount of sugar.
Oh, there you go. My kids would be real interested in this.
Yeah, this is, I'm making, this is definitely for them. But this dish is all about, and this is actually the case with a lot of Vietnamese cuisine. You see it in Thai, you see it in Cambodian and Laotian cuisine. They really like the idea of that balance between salt, sweet, sour, bitter, savory. Like they want that. And if a dish doesn't have those bouncing around things, like they're not on board with it. They would say it's off. So let's just set that aside. I am curious, when you're actually on this hunt, so, well, first of all, how many days did it take? Like, was it just on from the very beginning, like when you got there?
Oh yeah, it was on. We explained this in the episode too, but like another thing about this fact, it was a great spot and a limited entry area. Phelps had been there like scouting, which reduced down this pretty sizable chunk of real estate down to like a valley he wanted to go into. And he'd been in there listening to bulls in the valley. But when we packed in, I mean, we hadn't even dropped off our tent and sleeping bag where we were gonna camp. And we had called in bulls.
Nice.
I'll just say it as a fact. The one I got, we'd called in the day prior. Didn't really have a shot. And also, it was just kind of all happened so fast that I wasn't looking to shoot anyways. I was kind of just still sort of like trying to assess the situation. But based on what I'd seen for the previous couple hours, or listened, right? Because it's an audio game in many respects. I didn't feel like I was being given my one opportunity to shine. You know, it felt like a thing that was going to happen over the course of a couple days.
So this dish is almost always served with a little, like you'll go to a restaurant and they'll give it to you, and then they'll give you this little teeny tiny ramekin with salt and pepper in it, like mixed up.
Got it.
And then they'll give you a lime on the plate with your beef.
It's like doing a tequila shot.
Right. So you get this little dish.
So then you get like some wet salt.
Squeeze some lime juice in it, and then that's your dipping sauce. But it's not really a dipping sauce. So we're gonna kind of break the rule a little bit here, and we're gonna make like a proper dipping sauce for it. Got some limes.
Yep.
Do me a favor, like cut those in half and just like squeeze them in there, like juice them into that bowl. Oh, you're going to get like the actual juicer.
Is that bad?
It's not bad. I'm just surprised.
Really?
You seem like the kind of guy who would just like, you don't seem like a man who enjoys a single-use piece of equipment.
No, but dude, if you, I'm just being frugal with the lime juice.
That's the dumbest citrus juicer I've ever seen in my entire life.
Listen, man, let me go get my good one. I honestly don't know where that really came from. Let me show you what.
Why do a flexible lime juicer?
Here's my personal one.
Now that looks legit.
Yeah.
If the whole point to using one of these is that you really just like get in there and give it the business, which by the way, you could just do by like, you know, squeezing hard, but.
Listen, you want the lime juice or you don't?
Look, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to criticize your juicing technique. So first of all, let me take your lime juice.
A lot of lime juice.
We're gonna need a little bit more sugar. I know you love sugar, so we're gonna put some more in here. I got some lime juice in there, some fish sauce. I'm just kind of chopping some garlic in here. I wanna add a little bit of spice to it. Some Thai chilies here. You ever grow these?
Nope. Grow different chilies, but I haven't grown this. You can do surprisingly well.
Yeah?
Yeah.
These things will light you up. We're gonna go with one chili here.
Say when.
Let's go with that. That looks good. Like that'll actually give us something, kind of kick it up. Yeah, it's good. We have basically everything we need. Veg, this is gonna go in the stir fry. This is actually for the dish. A little bit of butter, rounding it out, which I know this seems like, every time I mention this to somebody as an ingredient, they're like, Kevin, they would never use butter. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Bullshit, they would 100% use butter because this dish came about because the French came. Like,
got it.
Granted, there's a lot of bad that came along with French colonization, but there was some cool stuff that happened with the food. And this is one of those sort of cool kind of takeaways here. All right, our wok, screaming hot. So we're gonna hope this flames just the tiniest little bit when we add it. And that's because we're trying to get the flavor that is literally, I don't know the word in Chinese or in Mandarin rather, but it translates to wok breath. or breadth of the wok, and that's that like slightly smoky flavor that you get from stir-fried stuff. So we're gonna go in with our oil, and it's a pretty decent amount. And this is like, that's what we want. We wanna see this smoke out like that almost immediately. So once I give it like that first little toss so that the oil catches, I'm just gonna leave it and not shake it around too much, you know? Because we do wanna build some of that Maillard reaction. And that's one of the benefits to the dry brine over the wet brine or marinade is the Maillard reaction.
You have a shitload of steam in there.
Yeah, exactly. It's just gonna happen better for us. And that's what we want. Now that we do have some color on it, let's go in with all of our onions here. The other thing I love about this dish, maybe not even just this dish, just Vietnamese cuisine in general, is I just love how fresh it is. Like, it makes you feel good when you eat it. Like, this isn't something that like you get done and
it looks
like,
clean, man.
Yeah, like it's just
so clean and nice.
Eating, man. And it's like, to me, that fits with the idea that like we're using a game meat, we're trying to be really mindful about what we're eating, you know, and this just feels like the right approach to it, so.
I don't know if I mentioned to you, but increasingly, I cook and eat, like when I'm cooking dinner, I like to make things that look like, where you can look at it and be like, that was chopped out of an animal.
Right.
Or that grew out of the dirt.
Yeah.
And I like all the things to look like that. You know, they can be cooked, but I like things that just look like what they were.
Right. Go in with all this and just give this quick stir here to make sure that everything is coated really nicely. And for me, I like to go ahead and chuck my butter into it like right now so that it starts to emulsify in there and makes the sauce kind of have that shine to it. It also has a slight thickening ability to it. Not a lot. This is not a saucy, heavy saucy dish by any means. Is this like what you and Phelps had out in the field?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Out of a freeze dry bag.
Yeah.
Like, another thing that impressed me about him is he's a very careful and very skilled at field butchering.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like very thorough. Very much knows what he's doing, very meticulous about it, very careful about it. He's like good at cutting stuff up in the field.
All right, this is it, man. And I like, I don't know, you eat with your eyes first.
Yep.
It's a pretty dish.
It's beautiful.
Before you taste anything, I want to do something here. So we have our sauce, but we got another lime and some salt and pepper. So I want to like mix, like let's do the one that they would do.
The one
like,
you're supposed to do.
Yeah, like so just cut that. Here, I'll cut this lime in half. Now I'll do the juicing since I don't want you to get your.
Oh yeah, you're gonna hand do it.
Yeah, I don't want you to get your juicer back out, get it dirty again, you know, that kind of thing. We don't need that much lime juice here because it really would be like, you know, not very much. With some salt.
See, that's some waste, not want, not shit right there, man. You did not.
Look, we can use the rest of it.
Juice it, man. That dude out.
I know, I didn't. Like that's the regular version, like that.
Yeah.
So let's see which one is better. Let's see which one you like better.
Go with that one.
That's bold. There's a lot of.
A little salty.
I was like, that was an aggressive dunk, Steve.
I dig it though.
That is good. Either way, I think it's a fun, different take. It's a fast dish that you can put together. It's really reasonable to make. And this isn't just something we could make with elk, honestly. Like this would be great with, you just gotta use something tender, you know, because like it's not gonna be forgiving. You don't have enough time to cook it down to tender. So you gotta start with something pretty tender.
Dude, I love it, man.
Well, hopefully it was a decent homage. I mean, from your story, it sounds like this dish is about as easy as that hunt was, so.
That's a good way of putting it. Fast.
Quick, fast, came together, everything worked out just fine.
Quick, fast, and pretty good.
Yeah, end of the story.